Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first 3cubed preliminary round. Excuse me, I can say that. The first preliminary round for this 9th Process Innovation Challenge from LocWorld. Good morning, Dave. How are you?
Hello, Alex. Great
to see you.
Back. Yeah, great to see you. Well, we're in the right place, I think. This is the 9th time we've run the Process Innovation Challenge. This is the place where innovators in the localization industry get to show their ideas to an audience. That's all of you out there, wherever you happen to be. So just in case, with all the virtual events going on, you're not sure where you are, well, you are at the PIC, as we call it. This is preliminary round number 1, right, Alex?
Absolutely, and welcome. We're really excited for a great competition today and tomorrow. The second round will take place tomorrow at the same time. I wanted to let everyone know today's and tomorrow's rounds will be leading up to a final round, which will take place as part of LocWorld Wide 43. That happens the final week of this month, and our final round will take place on Wednesday, January 27th, and it will go from 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. In order to watch and join that final round, you will need to be registered for LocWorld Wide Conference. My last announcement to let everyone know is that we will be taking questions for our innovators from both our process dragons, but also from you, the audience. If you have a question today for one of the innovators, please feel free to submit it through the general chat feature here in the Remo platform at any time. I'd ask you that you please include the first name of the innovator that your question is for, so that we can identify who it's for and pose that question to them. We may not be able to take all audience questions, but we'll do our best to take some. Back to you, Dave.
Thanks, Alex. And, every time we prepare this, we have a great team behind it. Our advisory team this time around are Yuka Nakasone from Intento, Bert Esselink, yes, him of book fame from SDL, and Jeff Kaiser from Translated. They are our dragons today and will be asking the hard and perhaps not so hard questions to our innovators. Welcome, dragons. And they will make their way up on stage, I guess. So I'm Dave Ruan, and with Alex, we're once more onto the breach we go, Alex. Let's get things started. Just before we do, what could you do with an hour? Well, here's one idea. Hopefully, we can make use of your hour as well. We've done the intro and logistics, so we're about to see the first of the pitches. These will then be followed by questions from our dragons who are joining us now. We will have 7 pitches today. So 7 innovators will talk about their innovative idea. They will all have a very limited amount of time to do it, and then they will have to move on. The rules are quite simple. 3 minutes, 3 slides, 3 dragons. All right. Without further ado, we will start the drum roll. I see Bert is there. Welcome, Bert.
Hey, Dave. Hello, everyone.
There's Yuka. Hi, Yuka.
Hi. Good morning. Good afternoon to everybody. Welcome.
Hello, Yuka. And I see we have Jeff now as well.
Hi, everyone.
There are our dragons. So you can see the running order. First up is Anne-Sophie. Anne-Sophie, we'll ask you to join us, and we'll get you started. Let the pick begin.
Let me see make sure that Anne-Sophie has speaker. She should be able to turn on her mic and camera now.
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can. Dave, I think you will need to stop sharing your screen so that Anne-Sophie can share hers.
Let me know if that works.
And we can see your slides.
Brilliant. All right. Shall I start?
Yes, you may.
All right. So today I want to present to you how we have changed our localization flow to be part of the experience. What I mean by experience here is not only the user experience, for our users in all the markets, but also the experience team. And that team is your team of content designers, product designers, and user researchers. So there was quite a few problems we wanted to solve, and they're all listed here, but I'm not going to go into details into those. What I really wanted to change, because it bugged me so much, was the perception of our team. Our team was seen as kind of two things. The first one, we were Jira ticket handlers. So we were just going through one Jira ticket at a time without necessarily seeing the full brief, the full feature that we're building. And the second thing was we were actually seen as the bottleneck. So the localization was always the one stopping the release for our product being launched in all of the markets. Can't tell you how often I've heard the sentence, oh, we'll just launch in English for all of our markets, or we're just going to go with English-speaking markets only first. So I started questioning, like, why was that? Was it because we're too slow? We didn't have the right team? What was it? And actually, we quickly realized it was actually due to the workflow. As you can see on the graph here, we could only start on kind of step 3. So the designers were done, the product team, or the tech team was done building the product. And so they're kind of waiting. And only then we can start. So that's why it created the perception of bottleneck. So that's when, with 2 engineers, we started thinking of a potential plugin that we would create between our Figma, which is our design tool, and our localization software. Unfortunately, we didn't have the manpower to do it, so I partnered with our localization vendor called Phrase. Well, they used to call Phrase App, but they're now called Phrase, to actually design the plugin. And what the plugin does is that it actually helps us to create the key in a semi-automatic way on Figma, then push with a click of a button the key, the strings, and the screenshots directly from Figma to Phrase. You can see it here, but I'm not going to go into details exactly how it works. You can see the demo on their website. What I really want to talk to you about today is actually the advantages that has brought us, and how this kind of slight change of workflow, which is actually quite big, but tiny a little in certain ways, actually helped us. And it helped us not only to build a lot faster. We reduced our timeline from 15 days, to 7 to 10 days maximum. A lot less engineering time, because they don't have to do things manually of pushing the keys and pushing the screenshots. But mainly for me, the 2 key aspects here are the collaboration, and as a result of that, the better localization. So the more collaboration is because, if you see now on the graph, we actually work alongside every single team. So we work with the designers directly on Figma to make sure that culturally it will work, that the design works well in all the languages that we support, and that the flow is actually okay. We work with the tech team to ensure that we have used the right placeholders for the dynamic content, the right pluralization. And also, we are able to change the mentality of our team. So because they see us at every step of the way, we fully embedded in the process, they actually start thinking of localization at the very beginning. So the designers start to think of different models that they have to use to make sure that we have all the languages, and it will look okay. So we don't have any more truncated names or things not wrapping up or things like this. So a tiny plugin has
10 seconds.
has helped us to be fully embedded in the workflow. So we have changed who we are and how we work, and we are now a partner with everyone else.
Well done, Anne-Sophie.
Thank you, Anne-Sophie.
Really good job. I think you just made it on time, judging by Alex's comment. So I think we're ready for some questions. And Bert, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Well, shorter than I expected, actually. So first of all, Anne-Sophie, thank you very much for being around as Deliveroo during these times of restaurants being closed, etc. So very grateful. So specifically about your presentation.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Yeah,
oh,
no,
sorry.
there's always a big little of a lab one, the slides change. So you mentioned collaboration, right? Was one of the main benefits. I'm just wondering how the designers have actually changed their approach, because very often when we've tried to put localization in the design phase, designers are very worried that it might damage sort of the actual looks of their design. Have you encountered a lot of sort of resistance because of that?
Actually, not at all, because we're not touching the design. We're only touching the layers. So we're only touching the text layer on the Figma. So we're never touching it. Or when we do touch it, it would be to pull the translations back and we create a new page on Figma with the local code at the end. So we're never touching what they're creating.
Okay. And then one other question I have as well is about the actual design phase. I mean, it means you mentioned prototypes, right? It's
Yeah.
a product in development. Does it happen a lot that you're actually localizing strings that never end up in the final product?
It does. So the way we use the prototypes is when we do user research, right? And that was so manual before because it was literally a copy and pasting job from Figma to an Excel, from the Excel back into Figma. So it's taking us about 7 days. While now we have created, so what we do on Fraser, we have a specific folder or project where it's called user research testing. So we push all the strings on there. So we have a slightly different process, including some kind of MT with a post editing sometimes, because we want to just go a bit quicker for that. So that actually has helped. Sorry, I'm talking really fast, but maybe I don't have 3 minutes of questions, I don't know. But what we do now is actually, before, when we wanted to do user research testing outside English-speaking markets, not being able to do prototypes quickly was actually quite of a blocker. Why now? Because they know they can do that without me, without my team. It's just literally, a few buttons that they have to do. It actually has helped, and we have done a few more since that.
Okay, cool, clear. No more questions for me, Dave.
So we will move on. And Sophie, I'm sure there are other questions.
That's it.
In terms of time, yeah, you're free to go.
Woo! Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. And yeah, if there's any other questions at the end, feel free to email them to me.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So next up is Alex. So Alex, we'll get you up on stage and we'll get you going. And just as Alex, the other Alex, has said, keep your questions coming in. If you have any, we'll try and get to them. As you can see, we're moving quite fast. This is part and parcel of the PIC. So Alex P, we have you ready. And if you'd like to share your screen, we'll get you started.
Hey everyone, it actually will be a very nice segue from what Anne-Sophie was showing, and I'll have to tweak my speech a little bit because the theme is very similar. But let me share the screen.
All right, and we can see your slides now.
Perfect. Can I start?
Proceed when ready.
Yep. Hey everyone, my name is Alex and I'm product lead here at Localize. And today I'm going to tell about the localization at the design stage, which, as I've said, is a very nice segue from the previous topic. And I think that just highlights the importance of this particular area. So if we speak about the traditional process, Anne-Sophie already mentioned a couple of things, but what we see from our customers, for example, is that they often struggle with translation not fitting the design well, the design of the product. And we all know that German language is way lengthier than English. Japanese, Korean also has different characters. There is right to left languages and some other languages that require some adaptation. But even more important is that linguists need to have a context. And I think we all can agree that the visual context is key. So if linguists are able to actually see the screen itself, but not only the screen, maybe even like the flow, different screens. So for example, if you're designing a checkout flow so that the linguist can see how user will interact with that so that they can actually make better decisions when it comes to the translations. And so there are a lot of the issues that can arise and that can be found after the product is released if localization is an afterthought, as also Anne-Sophie mentioned. And then that results in quite a lot of wasted resources and money for the company. And so I'm going to quickly show the demo while annotating it. So basically, Localize, what we do here is we provide the plugins for the Figma, Adobe Sketch, and we really try to make it not only a plugin, but a collaboration experience. So it's possible to push the strings from the design systems to the localized TMS. And it's also possible to push the updates, so update the status of the string so that both linguists and the designers always know what is the status of the string. Does it need to have any adaptation, any improvements whatsoever. It's also possible to set the character limits to make sure that linguists do not go over them, and some other cool things to do. And I wanted to emphasize here on the whole opportunity and on the change management, because actually this new workflow of starting localization at the design stage doesn't really need a lot of the change management. As we looked at the research from the UX Tool survey, and about 90% of the modern tech companies use tools like Figma, Sketch, or Adobe XD to design their products, which is a massive portion of the market. And so the other thing that we found ourselves is that we conducted a small study with some of the customers and looked in some reputable sources, and we found that you can decrease up to 10 times of the cost if you resolve some issues at the design stage as opposed to leaving it post-release. And the beauty of that is that collaboration between the UX writers, designers, product people, and linguists makes wonderful things happen. And they become part of the one process because linguists can also share their feedback about the product before it actually goes to the production, improving the features that your company is essentially building. So that's kind of the first layer of the feedback loop. So that's it from
10 seconds.
My side. I'm opening up the floor for the questions. And I hope there will be some, because it very closely laps with what Anne-Sophie was showing us.
Oh, there will be. Thank you very much, Alex. We know there will be. Let's ask the dragons straight away. Dragons?
There I go. Thank you very much for the nice presentation. I guess I understood the difference between Anne-Sophie and yourself, Alex, because you're from tool vendor side. So you're
Correct.
making the people to use this kind of flow as easy as possible. I mean, in the case of Anne-Sophie, she had to propose to create the plugin and create the process, but I kind of understood that you're proposing a tool to do it without creating that kind of, like process change. I mean, you can just deploy we can just deploy your tool, and we can use the process of this. Is that correct?
Exactly. That's absolutely correct. Yeah. And maybe to add a little bit on that, so we've actually rolled out all of our plugins last year in 2020, and the interesting thing was that all of them just skyrocketed once we were able to educate our users and customers on how to use them. Even though they've been the youngest out of the plugins and connectors we had on our system, we have way more monthly active users using these plugins as opposed to some other connectors that we had previously.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. And people use machine translation with this?
Yep. So in our case, we have some built-in features inside the TMS. So as soon as, for example, the new strings come from, let's say, Figma or Adobe or whatever, some workflows can be triggered. So, for example, a machine translation workflow can be triggered. And we had quite a few customers who use this combination in order to not even involve linguists, but just preview how the text can look like in certain languages without, without spending too much effort and too much time.
Yeah, like quasi-localization from,
exactly. Yeah.
Gary.
Excellent. And Jeff, do you have a quick question? We have time for one quick one.
You're muted, Jeff. Sorry.
Yeah. So one of the questions I kind of had, I was just kind of curious as to the, do you currently have, clients using this approach? I mean, has it already been rolled out from that standpoint? Yeah. And basically, are they applying it kind of evenly towards the mobile app and the web app usage for them?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Jeff. So it's already rolled out. As I've said, we had a lot of the users and customers already trying it out, testing it out, and also deploying the full-blown workflows with this tool. I would say that the majority of the customers that we've seen are designing the mobile apps, although there are also some that are using this plugin to work on their web app or website.
Okay, and in that loop and that effort, are they then giving you some good feedback regarding what works well and things like that at this point? Have you made any changes from that feedback, initial feedback?
Yeah, exactly. So a couple of things that we're actually working on now that we've gathered from the feedback is also getting the developers into the mix as well, because at that point, basically, so in our TMS, after the content is pushed from the design tool, the new keys are created, and developers can like download the file, or they can push them whatever they want. But when the developers actually are building out the functionality, they're using some assets that are generated by the tools like Figma and so on and so forth, like CSS code, for example. But what we are now trying to do is also to provide them with the easy way to identify the key names, because these are already generated at that point, and they can see where each key is on the screen, and they can basically take it together with all the assets that they're taking from the design tool, and it allows them to do their job way quicker. So that's one of the insights that we've gathered from our kind of early adopters, and I think it can really help the whole workflow to kind of bring everybody on the same page.
Okay, thank you, Alex.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Alex.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so thanks, Alex. Next up is going to be Raphael Javorsky. Raphael, we'll get you to join the stage.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. Let me just make sure, yes, you can see me, right? Okay, and then my slides. Okay, I think I'm ready.
Great, we see them now.
All right, great. So just keep going. Okay, so hello, my name is Raphael Javorsky. I'm a linguistic AI expert at XCM International, and I will be talking about something different this time. This is about computer-assisted reviews. So I will present the latest invention of ours that helps to highlight potential translation errors in text translations. So the situation is the following. The translation is done, so we are now in the review process, and the translator might have made a mistake, obviously, right? And the review process is concentrated on finding this error, and this error might have come from, for example, not knowing the term, right? Especially if the term might have been oblivious to, well, the translator might have been oblivious to this kind of term. The translator might have made a sort of simple mistake, and also the machine translation could have been the culprit, because right now, as at least some of the dragons might have worked with assessing the quality of machine translation, and you might have noticed that the top shelf neural machine translation nowadays is, even if it fails in terms of accuracy, it is almost always quite fluent. So it's really well at hiding mistakes. So let's just consider this example. We have a sentence from English for best performance, choose the news site closest to you, and Spanish translation. And for me personally, after passing Spanish 101 during my university days, for me this translation is muy bien, right? But let's give it to the computer, and let's see what the computer gives us. The computer is working away using neural networks, using advanced AI. And what it produces is numbers. Obviously, computers are best at producing numbers. So these numbers represent probability of individual words being translations of the English words. And what we are looking for in this table is locally minimal values, not the globally minimal values, but this is a value for the word alternativo, which is kind of weirdly low in this respect, and that's because the term mirror side was translated to servidor alternativo, which is not a standard way of translating. The translator should have used servidor espejo. This is the correct Spanish term for that, and it was only spotted because, well, thanks to the computer mechanism. So basically, what is the invention? It's based on neural networks. It works on the idea of vector space. That is, it treats words as numbers, as we saw. It uses advanced mathematics. It uses advanced algebra. It uses training of neural networks. Currently supports 50 languages, and since it's may be used to spot and error made by AI, by NMT, we can safely say that this is AI to keep an eye on AI. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Raphael. And straight into questions. Dragons, who wants to start?
Yeah, I'd love to start. I love it. I really like the concept of AI monitoring AI. I mean, that's really innovative in my books. I'm just wondering, it still needs a human, right? The human needs to look at whatever the AI reviewer finds.
Yes.
Do you foresee a future where AI can actually do the post editing
and
fix the error spots?
Yes, of course. Yes, that's one of the extensions of this particular idea. This is one that's we are actually also planning to implement someday. And I'm really looking forward to see the results. Maybe you have an AI to do the work and AI as a policeman to keep an eye on the other one, and maybe you can get it to work.
And have you done tests where you've run this AI machine or this review on existing translations and it spots errors and they're fixed, and then rerun it to see if indeed then you get, you get good results? It doesn't spot them anymore?
At this preliminary stage, we did it on a subset of translations, but we didn't do the second review yet. But that's a very good idea. Yes, we should. I think we should try it. Yes.
Okay, thank you. No more questions for me.
I go. Hi, Rafa. Thank you very much for the presentation. It sounded like, I may be wrong, but it sounded like very similar to risk prediction technology for empty space. Is that correct? I mean,
I think the idea is pretty similar. Yes, I agree with that. Maybe the basic workings of the mechanism are different, because what we are doing right now is basically a kind of detailed analysis. We are actually breaking it down into words, and we are actually thinking of breaking down to subword units too, and to see if everything works okay. So it's basically something different than NMT, because NMT basically takes the work from the translator and says, "I'll do it better, right, than you." And but what we are doing is we are trying to incorporate the knowledge that we have about language, the idiosyncrasy of the language, or any phenomena of that kind, to basically to
suggest the right one.
That's right. Yes.
Okay, so that's a little different. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Yuka and Raphael. We do have a question from the audience. How is this different from quality estimation? I'm not sure if that gives you enough context, Raphael. But
it basically falls close to the quality estimation techniques. It's just that the workings, the mechanism that we are using in it, it's something that we internally and externally now call interlanguage vector space. This is the framework, the AI framework that basically gets us going and allows for this and many other tasks. So it's like it's like a part of quality estimation, but done a little bit different.
Thank you very much, Raphael, and I hope that answered the question. And so next up is Kirill. So we'll just ask Kirill to come on stage.
Hi, everyone. This is Kirill here.
Hi, Kirill.
Hey, Kirill.
You well?
I'll get you to share your screen.
Yes, I'll share my screen in a second. Can you see it?
We can see your slides.
Perfect. Off we go. Hello, everyone. I'm Kirill, and I'm here to talk about augmented quality risk management for post-edited machine translation. You might remember Ada, our virtual quality manager from the previous book. So back then, you had questions on how exactly it will work, and we didn't have time to answer. So let's fix this with an example. Now, MT post-editing is really widespread now. And the ability to analyze the results of that post-editing and act on the result is key to getting the best performance from your MT engine. However, understanding where exactly your MT engines need improvement and how to focus the effort of your training process is actually difficult, slow, and time-consuming, even for the most mature MT teams that operate at large scale with dozens of languages and dozens of engines. So this is where ADA for PEMT comes into play. How does it work? First, ADA connects to your TMS and starts to continuously monitor all of your post-editing jobs, collecting edit distance metrics and similar types of signals. So once she has enough data and can spot outliers, she will start to automatically initiate detailed human investigations of the outliers. So this way, we provide specific quality problems that are easy for your machine translation team to troubleshoot and find the reason for the increased post-editing effort. So the MT team can use this information to figure out how to retrain the engine or pre or post-engineer the content and solve this kind of problems. And once they release new MT engines, ADA will still keep helping them by monitoring new post-editing jobs for similar issues, and it will alert the MT team if anything comes back again. So basically, ADA continuously monitors your post-editing program and helps you get crucial business intelligence to continuously improve it. This comes with the following benefits. First, cheaper operations. Your MT team saves both by removing human overhead, but also by reducing expensive human linguist involvement only to high-risk areas. Second, faster quality improvement. By getting specific details right to their desk, MT teams can iterate faster towards higher quality engines. And third, less post-editing effort. Since your MT team now gets specific real-life error information, they can actually focus their training on those real-life errors instead of just generic improvements, and hopefully over time produce higher quality raw machine translation that reduces the post-editing effort. And we're rolling out ADA for PEMT in Q1 for select TMS integrations. Thank you, and please stay tuned.
Great to see Ada is back, and Sarah as well, indeed. Thanks very much, Kirill. So Bert, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's good to see Ada is back.
Thanks,
it's
Bert.
nice to see that technology is humanized in this way. I'm just wondering, how does Ada communicate? I mean, how effectively is the data communicated to the post editors or the MT teams? Is it just a table with numbers like we just saw, or is it in a more human way?
It's a set of reports. You can think of a dashboard, Bert, that shows you all the crucial metrics from the different MT engines you're managing, like the quality investigation and analysis results that have been gathered by your human linguists. So basically, it all comes in one single place where your MTM can access this information. They don't see the face of Ada, if that's what you're asking about, but they see its output, right? And I think that's the beauty of it.
Okay. That's the only question I have, I think.
Thank you, Bert. Jeff, for you, could you have a question?
Yeah, I'll get one started. So I like the approach. I mean, it's much more targeted, sort of, bring it down to that review element. What I was interested in is, can you change the parameters that kind of initiate that human quality evaluation? So can you, make it even more stringent on what that person will see, or can you back it off a little bit? Can you make those adjustments on those parameters?
Yeah, absolutely. The original vision is to basically let Ada figure out the right parameters, but if you know exactly okay, what's the cutoff edit distance value you absolutely want to start the human investigation from, you can just say this to Ada and she will oblige. So yeah, the parameters are actually quite flexible. And we also have the ability to add different types of signals. So edit distance is a very simple metric, but we're also thinking of plugging in a third-party quality estimation mechanism, for instance, that uses AI, just as we discussed before with the XTM team, to predict this kind of edit distance value before post-editing actually happens. So Ada can combine different sorts of signals reactive ones and proactive ones, to help make better decisions and to keep an eye on what's happening with your machine translation output.
Awesome. I like it. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks very much, Kirill.
Thank you.
You know, one of the nice things about doing the PIC is people come back and we see people again. Kirill was here before. We have another person who's been here before coming on stage with Constantine, so we'll just invite him to do that, and also invite you to ask your questions. So keep the questions coming in and to the question block. I don't know if Constantine has joined it there. He looks like he's joining. Hey, Constantine.
Hello. Oh, hello.
Welcome
We
back.
can hear and see you now.
Good. Starting. Receipt.
You're good to go.
Good. So, meet Mike. He's an IT support specialist, and he cares a lot about his customers, has excellent expertise in company products, and always finds the right word for every client. And in doing that, he follows the company guidelines to use two types of brand speak, where one is formal, but not too formal, for external peers, the company clients and partners. And another is sort of family style internal brand speak to address his colleagues. And he has such a great expertise in the company products and achieves such high satisfaction rates that the company would like to use his skills not only the English-speaking customers, but also for other markets. And thanks to the machine translation technology, with an ability to train on your own content and apply custom terminology, it all seems, readily achievable. Or does it? Because in English, we're lucky not to have worried about things like formal and informal tone of voice for the last 500 years. But in many other languages, they have to decide between at least two different tones. And when we're translating chat phrases from English to a language with a tone of voice, such as German, French, Russian, many others, we get into a dusty corner of commercial MT systems. Across many MT vendors, only DeepL supports this tone of voice option out of the box. And for many other MT engines, the translations will be a mix of formal and informal tone, which is just not acceptable for the chat dialogue. And hence Mike has a problem, as this issue ruins customer satisfaction. And we've got a solution just for that. We call it tone of voice control. It's based on universal language models, much like we discussed before here. Involves automated modification of source text and resulted translation, and works on top of any MT engine. So you specify the desired tone of voice, and that's what you're most likely to get. And this technique unlocks using raw machine translation, real-time outbound content translation, such as support chats, user communication, video subtitling. And the same approach also works for solving the gender and plurality issues in many MT systems. But it truly shines when it's used as a part of the voice-to-voice translation, where the right tone of voice is even more important, as something that was heard cannot be unheard. And here's some example how it works.
Global IT Desk Support. My name is Mike. How can I help you?
Ich bin's, Karen. Ich habe ein riesiges Problem. Mein Drucker funktioniert nicht und in ein paar Minuten habe ich eine wichtige Präsentation.
It's Karen. I have a huge problem. My printer does not work and I have an important presentation in a few minutes.
Let me check. Please specify which printer you are sending the document to.
Lassen Sie mich nachsehen. Bitte geben Sie an welchen Drucker Sie das Dokument senden.
Das sollten Sie doch schon wissen. Jedes Mal stellen Sie mir die gleichen Fragen. Lösen Sie doch einfach mein scheiß Problem.
You should know that already. Every time you ask me the same questions. Just solve my problem.
I just rebooted the printer, and now you should see it on the local network and send the document to print.
Ich habe gerade den Drucker neu gestartet und jetzt sollten Sie ihn im lokalen Netzwerk sehen und das Dokument zum Drucken senden.
Okay, danke.
Okay, thanks.
I'm happy to help. Goodbye.
Ich helfe Ihnen gerne. Auf Wiedersehen.
That's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Konstantin. I think I know which Karen I prefer to meet. Let's ask the dragon. So, Jeff, do you have questions for Konstantin?
Yes. So, hi, Konstantin. So, I was kind of, the slide that you have there where you adjust. Now, can this be, adjusted as well? Kind of similar question I had to before is that can you adjust where, it has a specific criteria for terminology and gender, but maybe, less of a tone of voice, or are those parameters adjustable based on obviously what you are interested in most as a client? Because I'm assuming, this is applicable for enterprise clients, and one of influencer might be more important than others for certain clients.
Yes. So in fact, we adjust this for example, when we enabled it in French, we got a feedback from one of the clients that, guys, we want it informal, but you sort of a little bit crossing the line. It's too informal. Can you just back off a little bit? Okay.
And I could understand that obviously for certain industries, it might be like, if we're talking about wine, they might be adjusting that, but yeah.
Yes. I cannot say that it's some sort of numerical parameter, but it's more that if we have a feedback that we made too much of adjustment, we find a way to change it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
I have a question, Konstantin, if there's still some time. Really a cool example of the angry German making it polite. I'm just wondering about the concept. I mean, isn't this just a type of training of engine? In what sense it is a difference?
It's not training at all, meaning that it works on standard Google Translate, which is pre-trained. It works on any empty engine. It's not training.
Okay. And how do you keep up with all those engines? Because there's Amazon, there's DeepL, there's Google, and they change their engines constantly. Clearly, and they probably also the tone of voice. How do you continue? How do you keep matching and building? Making sure that your technology is actually changing what it needs to change.
Well, there are two sides to that. So one side is that we found a way how to just convince them to produce proper translations themselves. So we're actually not dependent that much on how they work. And second, it still depends on certain technical features of their operation. And to make sure that it still works, well, we use a very conventional approach of just regression testing and making sure that some hacks we use, they're still in place.
Okay. And you have some sliders there on the right that show you have different levels of formality. How does that work?
We don't have so far. And so far we have experience working with just 2 tones of voice. Where I have a client which wants it for Korean. Mm-hmm. We'll see.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. Very interesting.
Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Konstantin. And we'll move on to our next speaker, who's going to be Edie. We'll just have you join the stage. Hey, very welcome.
Hi everyone. What an honor to be accompanying such brilliant innovators and brilliant minds and dragons. So thank you first and foremost for having me and allowing me to share my process innovation. So excited to be here.
Looking forward to getting you started. Do you want to share your screen?
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm assuming everyone can see my screen.
We can. It's not in present mode just yet.
All right.
I stand corrected now, it is. Off we go.
Awesome. Well, thank you first and foremost for inviting me. My innovation, my process innovation is centered around global product design. Hi, everyone. My name is Iti Sahai. I lead international growth through for a company called Procore Technologies. We are the leaders in construction tech space, so it's B2B SaaS. And to provide some context around my process innovation, when I started at Procore, I was tasked with this hefty lift of transforming localization into a strategic function. And the mission that I was guided by was to create operational efficiencies for each stage of the product development process. And my guiding principle to execute this vision has been one of my favorite quotes from Einstein, which essentially has its essence rooted in simplicity, which is a true mark of intelligence and genius. So the challenge at hand was to identify a zero cost, zero waste, zero dependency solution for especially the design stage. In an organization which is design-led product development, design is a critical part of the entire process. So the challenge was hefty and the solution had to be simple. The enterprise level design solution we use at Procore is Figma. And the solution that I came up with was a community-sourced pseudo-localization and translator plugin. So as far as pseudoloc is concerned, I have a little demo here which will perhaps make it more easy to understand. It's entirely community-sourced and very intuitive in its sense of allowing for flexibility within the padding and implementing that into the design solution for the ideation, early on in the phase. And the translator plugin works very similarly as well, which is powered by open APIs plugged into numerous MT engines that provide almost real-time translations for over 104 languages, allowing for the adaptation of the design from a very early on in the product development stage. So the outcome was essentially that this solution helped with elimination of downstream efforts, downstream bugs, essentially, that were design related by implementing the capabilities early on and essentially empowering the designers to build empathy for the end user and a more efficient go-to-market. So if there's just one takeaway from my presentation today, I would say that I hope this validates the inner creative genius in all of you. If you are tasked with the hefty ask of how to transform localization at your organization, because even though the challenge might be difficult and complex, the solution could be very simple yet scrappy, and that's the ingenuity of true genius. So thank you once again for allowing me to share my innovation, and hope you can implement it, take it away and implement it in your own organizations as well.
Thank you very much, Edie. That is the spirit that we love to see at the PIC, that of sharing ideas. So thank you once again. And hey, Jeff, let's start with you on a question.
Yeah. So one question I have, we've seen quite a few innovations today, and there's the age-old saying of, what do you feel is, you've seen some of the kind of innovations where you're trying to capture that early on. You're trying to be able to limit what you're going to have to do later on in your process. What do you see it as a clear differentiator from maybe something that's in the marketplace, or even some of the innovations in that sense, trying to accomplish that same task?
Yeah, the one differentiator I see, which is quite evident, and I shared that it was zero cost. So it was entirely community sourced. So there was no cost to the organization, even the implementation of the framework. And that's why it garnered the adoption that it did in-house, was that there was zero cost to the organization, apart from just me getting scrappy and me imploring the community to come up with a solution. Because the reality is, if I am having a problem, if I'm having a struggle, someone else is feeling the same way. So why don't we, put our brilliant minds together, come up with a scrappy, simple solution, because it's out there, and it's just for us to, combine our forces to essentially find that. So it's zero cost, it's zero waste.
So my follow-up question would be: is it available to anybody else?
Oh yeah, that's what totally. If you use Figma in your organization, I'm happy to share. That's why it's absolutely exciting for me to share that there are 2 plugins that are available for the Figma community, which have 0 cost. There's 0 waste, so you're not requesting translations early on, and then there's a downstream waste, so to speak, for localization within the company. And there's 0 dependency, so you can almost immediately plug in down. It's very simple 2-click plugin for this these 2 plugins, pseudoloc and translator. And then it's almost immediate. I had a demo for the translator as well in a couple of languages, but the file was too hefty to upload in this presentation. I'm happy to share if you all have a moment, but it's almost intuitive in the sense of how the translations are available.
So now you're just waiting for the royalties, basically, right?
Let me just share, why not? Because I have it here. Whoops. Perhaps it didn't work, but yeah, no, it's free. It's available to everyone and anyone, and I'm happy to share later on.
We'll connect the dots on that, Edie, and make that happen post the preliminaries. And Yuka, do you have a quick question for Edie?
Hi, Edie. Thank you for coming. Not really, because I was wondering the same as Jeff, because there's so many design phase innovation right now. And I myself did a kind of process innovation since 2016. So I was wondering the difference, and she clearly defined that it's crowdsourced and it's for 0 cost and blah, blah, blah. Just one thing that people might misunderstand your process if you say this is pseudo-localization, because pseudo-localization is done when it's coded. Design phase, it's not. If you use the term, maybe people would understand something else. So that's my advice. Okay.
Thank you so much for your feedback.
Yeah, because Gary Lefman did the same kind of innovation, who won the Tokyo one with Jeff, yeah. And he named it, this is quasi-localization to differentiate. So maybe that's the term we have to use, okay?
Interesting point.
Thank you, yeah.
I know I'm not just speaking for myself, Edie, when I say you brought some of us back well over 20 years to our engineering days. I see someone else smiling here in the panel. Thank you very much for that. Also, in the spirit, we love seeing process innovations like that, so thank you again. And
thank you. Thank you so much.
So great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Edie. So finally, we have one more innovator today. And just as a reminder, we do have more innovations tomorrow. We'll just remind you about that. We'll need another 12 minutes or so in this session. So if you have time, stick around, please. And we'll ask Takeyoshi-san to join us on stage. And hopefully he can do that. And here, speaking of Takeyoshi-san, how are you? Very welcome. It's probably very late where you are. Thanks for joining us.
So, okay, everybody sees my screen.
We do indeed. You're ready to go.
Okay, let me start now. My name is Takeyoshi Nakayama. Sorry, wrong name. I'm solutions engineer from Human Science. Human Science is a language service provider in Japan. And the machine translation is used in many of our localization projects from many customers. In those projects, there are 2 important items to consider. Firstly, choosing the right MT engine for the project. The MT quality can be evaluated only in the actual projects, and one-time evaluation is not enough, because the contents of the project and the quality of the MT engine change over time. So continuous evaluation is needed. Secondly, we have an automatic post-edit system called mtrans. Trans % of post-edit time if correctly to create the right configuration, we need to compare the difference between the raw empty output and the post-edited translations. To make this process efficient, all the modifications should be collected in one centralized location. There are two problems. Traditional manual empty reports are often subjective and hard to show the actual empty quality. And aggregating the manual reports needs time and effort of the LSP staff. And this is the localization workflow. Step 1, choose one empty engine to translate documents. 2, apply the automatic post-edit with mtrans. 3, post-edit manually by translators. 4, create an empty report manually. 5, evaluate the empty engine and improve automatic post-edit. And now step 4 is replaced with the automatic empty report. Edit distance values are calculated automatically. All the modifications are corrected, and both the edit distance values and the modifications are stored in a centralized location. This makes step 5 more efficient. Projects will need less post-edit. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. Very clear, I think, and crisp. And I'll pass you over to your country person.
That is me. Okay. Thank you very much, Nakayama-san, for the presentation. I just want to make sure that this is you have automatic post-editing, and then manual post-editing, then automatic empty report, then improve the empty and automatic post-edit. But this the step 5 is automatic or manual?
It is now manual.
It is now manual.
Basically, all the differences, we need to see which changes need to be applied to mtrans. So that is only done by human currently.
Is it possible to be done automatically? Because I think there's some kind of solutions like this up to at this moment, but maybe by making this step a little bit more automatic AI applied solution.
Yeah, in the future, I hope. But this is really the first step to collect everything in one place. And the problem of language service provider is that we use all kinds of capitals. Like those mem source, memo pool, all kinds of capitals. And we need to collect them in one single place. And that's the very difficult part. And that's I'm building it right now.
Yeah, I hear you.
For future, I hope.
Good job, thank you.
Bert, do you have a question?
Yeah, I must say this one reminds me a little bit about the Kirill story about Ada. Right? I think the step 4 here is a bit like Ada. And really the same question applies here. I mean, how does this automatic MT report communicate with the people actually doing the work in step 5? I mean, because I think it's adding a lot of workload to the post editors, right? To go through a report that shows all the data distance reports, etc. Have they? Is it an easy way for them to absorb? Okay, this is where we really need to make changes, or is there a lot of noise in those reports?
Current reports contain all the modifications, so human needs to spend some time reading it. But picking up the most wanted conditions for mtrans is actually easy. So experienced one can pick up one and apply it to M-Trans, and from the next project, it is now automatic post edit. So they very quick, and that's what I want currently.
Okay. I know it's not part of your presentation, but I'm quite intrigued by the automated post-edit one with the M-Trans, and I'm not sure if there's time, Dave, for any questions around that. But can you explain how that works?
Yeah.
Step 2 here.
Items. One is the glossary terminology, and 2 is the automatic style replacement of engines. And so much, and none of the empty engines have such style rules, and we need to apply it by our own M-Trans solutions.
Yeah. I'd like to see a world where we combine all these innovations in one workflow, like I think Invento's system for selecting the right MT tool, then your automated post-editing, then maybe still manual post-edit, and the automated quality review, and the distance reporting. I think when you've got all of that in one system, I don't think really any humans are needed anymore. I don't know.
No, we need post-editors. That's the quality assurance that we need. So maybe translators.
Good to hear.
Very good. Well, thanks, Bert, and tthank you, Takeyoshi-san. That's
thank you.
Wonderful stuff. Thanks a million. And that does unfortunately conclude our innovations for today. But hold on one moment. We've a couple of final words. We won't keep you too long. Alex, any final thoughts?
Sure. Just wanted to let everyone know that we're going to keep the Remo platform open for about another 25 minutes until 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. This allows you a chance after we conclude the presentation right now. We'll go back to the floor here in the Remo platform, and there are networking tables. So feel free to move around, and if you have specific questions or you'd like to talk with one of the innovators, this is your chance. Also want to, again, invite everyone to join us tomorrow, same time for round 2 of this preliminary round. And in the chat feature, Dave has just put the link where you can register and join that event. So.
Great. Thanks, Alex. And we did get a couple of questions in from the audience. Actually, they were for Constantine. And sorry, we got those late. Apologies to the people who sent those in. What we're going to do is send them on to him and see if he'll actually answer those questions. So actually, we'll try and close the loop there. But thank you again for your questions. And just as Alex has said, well, we have a session tomorrow. Here are the innovators, if you're able to join us, that you'll be able to see another 7 innovators. And after tomorrow's session, the Dragons have the opportunity to assess, review, and make their votes. That's when they turn from nice dragons to not so nice, perhaps. But so, without further ado, thank you very much for joining with the PIC. And hopefully we will see you all tomorrow and maybe see you at the networking tables.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks,
Thank
Dragons.
you
Thanks, innovators.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.